What is it about a brand or a machine or a company that just draws you in, that just makes you want to be part of that tribe? There's something about Freddy. I don't know what it is, but I talked to lots of customers, so many that I had to get one myself, and I've used it at a bunch of customers, and they come over to me and go, "What is that?" Now, what is it? It's just a high-power industrial vacuum, but there's a tribe behind it. There's stories behind it. There's a long history. It's really, really cool. And so that's why I went and took a tour. Now, Simon is one of those guys who you just have to meet in person. There's something about him, something about all of the employees there, the whole vibe that kind of follows you when you get one at your shop. Simon, I've enjoyed the tour. You showed me around. What is your favorite thing about making this vacuum?
I think for us it's just the homes that we found, and you referred to it, the community. I can't believe how many people since COVID bought our product, and it's gone into countries that I never thought would be possible. So the reach is fantastic.
Now they're a high-power industrial coolant, filtration and vacuum system. Now it's pretty impressive what it does, but it is kind of bucking the system because the coolant people want to sell you more coolant, and the people who sell you oil want to sell you more oil. And if it's trammed out or if it's dirty, they say to throw it away. Well, it can be cleaned and it can be reused. So he's kind of saying, hey, here's something to save you money. Here's something to save you when you have a spill. I think that's part of the reason why so many people are getting behind this vacuum. They're great. They work really well, so well. They really haven't changed the design since the 60s. The first one came out in 1963, and it was blue. And they wanted to give it a name so that there was some history behind it, so that there was a personality. And I think that is really the case. It still follows it around. People say, go get the Freddy, or I'm gonna need to use my Freddy to clean up this mess. So there's just this personality behind a vacuum, and it follows into their shop. In their shop, they play darts on brake. They work on motorcycles. There was some car parts. Somebody was putting new bearings in a rear end of a little car from the 50s. I had a fabulous time walking around with Simon, and he showed me everything. Simon kind of runs the whole thing and is the person you talk to. He's the persona behind their Instagram. Oh man, I kind of thought that maybe you were using robots, but you've just got cool guys out there welding and rolling everything.
Everything manual. You could do it so much faster probably, but it's traditional. In the same way as a machine that's just slightly out of shot, 1960, that still works, we're still doing it the same way now. We know that the way we build this, it's going to last forever.
I asked him, I said, what is your main bottleneck? And he said, Aaron, it's storage. We're shipping these containerfuls to the US, to Central America, all over Europe, some to Australia. So he said, I have to build them and then I have to store them somewhere. So much that they bought the building next door and just housed them. I mean, rows and rows of them. And I said, okay, so your bottleneck is storage. I said, how do you do that better if your bottleneck is full? And he said, well, we're trying to figure out how to stage them so we can have the motors ready, we can have all the parts ready, because they make it in 120 and in 240. So he said, if I have one that's totally wired for 240 and someone needs one out tomorrow somewhere, he said, it's not really efficient to unwire the whole thing and put different motors in it. So he said, we're trying to do it in packages and sections so I can have them just about ready to go, and then we can quickly fulfill the order and pack it all down. Simon and I were talking about bottlenecks in my business, not being able to get to customers fast enough, or not having the parts on hand, or dealing with suppliers that have 6 months lead time, or not wanting to send a huge PO for a full quantity of a year's worth, but trying to convince your supplier, hey, can you make 100 of these and give them to me in 10 POs of 10 each? So all sorts of things. Simon was showing me their cool taper vacuum seal that they use. He was explaining to me that they wanted a seal that would work well, that would work for a long time, changing nozzles, putting it back on, and not something that had cam levers or something that was difficult to replace. And so he's worked with a local machinist, and they made it out of tubing, and they've got this cool taper seal, and it's a beautiful, nice looking part. I've seen them. It's really the only main machined part on the Freddy. I don't know how to describe to you the underlying feeling that's there. When you go visit a shop, and I visited a lot of shops, or when you go buy a product from somebody, you like to feel like you're supporting good people. The people behind it are going to take care of you. And that's the whole feeling I had when talking to Simon before I got my Freddy, after we got it, after I've used it, and I've talked to other customers who have them. And I'm not making this as an advertising video. I'm making this video because there are lots of good businesses out there that have good drive, that have good ethics, that take care of the customers. They make a good part, and that they make something that's going to last. I don't know if you know, but there are tons and tons of these Freddys that are worn out. The customers have sucked thousands of gallons of coolant and oil through them. And they take them in and they refurbish them. And if they're not good, he'll call them and say, yo, we don't feel comfortable with this. We're gonna make it right. We're gonna take care of you. If somebody calls and has a question, they're gonna fix it. It's the whole vibe. Those type of companies, the small companies, are my favorite. The people who care about their product. And I get to work with a lot of companies that are the same way, who money is not the end goal. Taking care of the customer, the longevity of their product. They stand behind their product. It's not like, oh yeah, we made some of these and that section of years are terrible, so throw those away and get a different ones. No, they've done what they could to make all of their new components reverse compatible. So they're gonna spend the engineering time to make sure the motor covers fit with the new motors on the old motors, and not gonna change their design so much that you can't recognize it. I just had fun visiting their factory. They're a small fab shop. Everybody there is in a good mood. Everybody there is working together. There's lots of places like this. I'm bringing it up because I want other companies that are like this to know there are other companies out there. And if many people that I know start their own companies, to let them know this is the way good business is done. I hope I'm not preaching at you, but it's just such a good feeling when you get to use a product that's from a good company, from good people, that is designed well, that's going to last, and you call somebody up and they're gonna answer the phone. So that was why it was so much fun for me to visit the Freddy tour. They may not brag about this, but they fully assemble it, then they pressure test it, then they send it to powder coat, they bring it back, they pressure test it, they do a wet test, they do a leak test. And he's not bragging about this or anything. I kind of stole his van, ran around all England for a day or two. Great people. But he was explaining to me how they had a cam lock seal that fit in a kind of a cam groove, and it wasn't working right, and he was talking to one of their vendors in the US, and he was complaining about it. And Simon went out and unpacked like 30 Freddys to make sure that every single one of them fit, and worked with their supplier to make sure it was right, because they don't want to have a batch of Freddys from a particular serial number that don't have things, overnighting parts to make things right. That's just like a company that is worth celebrating. Like, hey, these are good people doing good things. So if you're running a business, if you're gonna be a business owner, if you're just an employee somewhere, those are the type of things that make businesses last generations and generations. I'm taking over my business from my dad, and he's instilled a lot of those things in me, and I see that in Freddy. I see it in a bunch of shops. I'm gonna visit a few other shops that are the same mentality. So that was my take, that's my tour. It was a great time. Thanks, Simon. Thanks everybody at Freddy for the van, for all the great hospitality, and I hope somebody watching this video realizes that there are lots of good people still in this world. That's my whole take.